waiting for the sunrise.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Yves.
Intelligent.
Ouais, c'est cool, hein?
N'est-ce pas?
Hello and welcome to our weekly film show with our critic Lisa Nesselson. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
And today we're starting with the actor Jeff Goldblum's new film. He's just been honoured at the Champs-Élysées Film Festival. His latest movie, The Mountain, is out in France this week. It's pretty surreal, isn't it?
It is indeed, and The Mountain is the fifth film by iconoclastic American director Rick Alverson, who was also the subject of a sidebar tribute at the Champs-Élysées Film Festival, an event that seeks to show independent American films and independent French films. This unsettling movie is as independent-spirited, I think, as you could get. Simply stated, The Mountain is about a man with a professorial demeanor, played by Goldblum, who travels around 1950s America performing lobotomies as a method to alleviate mental health problems and just plain calm people down. Since nobody ever came out of a lobotomy frisky and energetic, it's sort of a zombie movie in a way. There are varying accounts of who first uttered the pleasing witticism, "I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy," but I'll go with Dorothy Parker.
Okay, well, I got to interview the delightful and talented Jeff Goldblum, who stars in the movie. Here's what he had to say about the film.
Where do they go? Where does who go? People. After you change them.
Working with Rick Alverson is spectacular, and I like his ideas about America and how it went haywire, and how to look at ourselves there, and perhaps internationally too, in ways that are honest and possibly upsetting. So this lobotomy character, you know, is in the 50s, and the 54 is a character, an American character who I think wanted to make something, a name for himself, then wants to, like Willy Loman in Death of a Salesman, not admit that he was wrong.
And you can watch the rest of my interview with the delightful Jeff Goldblum a little later in the week. I also spoke to the director of the film The Mountain, who told me that he's actually opposed to this idea of utopian films where the audience have a nice time. You don't have a nice time when you're watching this movie, do you?
Nice isn't the first word that would come to mind. No, the production design, as you could see, is very chilly, right down to one of the main characters living and working at an ice skating rink. Dr. Wallace Fiennes takes recently orphaned Andy under his wing to work as a photographer, photographing his work slicing into people's brains, supposedly for their own good. Ice picks are involved. The doctor and Andy make their way to a new agey enclave that's ahead of its time, where a creepy alternative healing guru, played by French actor Denis Lavant, holds sway. This is a very strange movie about a highly original topic with some excellent performances.
Okay, well, last week, Jean Dujardin formed a very personal relationship with his fringed suede jacket in the deerskin. And this week, William Lebgill forms a close relationship with his fridge, or refrigerator, as you call it in America. The movie is called Eve. Are French women so scary that French men are falling in love with inanimate objects?
I like
Lisa?
that theory. I don't know if two French comedies in which guys shack up with inanimate objects qualifies as a trend, or if it does have something to do with women being too scary to relate to, but it is noteworthy, I think. However, whereas The Deerskin is terrifically entertaining, Eve, about a 30-ish rapper named Jerem, who agrees to let a market research firm pair him with a smart refrigerator freezer, left me cold, get it? I'm in the minority here, though, because French people seem to think this is a side-splitting comedy. For me, the most brilliant thing about it is that the official English title is All About Eve, which is a wonderful pun on one of the very best movies ever made, starring Bette Davis as a Broadway actress who lets the fresh-faced young woman of the title insinuate herself into her life. Well, actually, Eve also insinuates himself into Jerem's life. That's his job. It polishes its algorithms to help Jerem improve his diet, which you don't actually need a state-of-the-art electronic device to do, because Jerem is happy eating raw hot dogs, if that's what's handiest.
Okay, lovely. Well, let's take a look at All About Eve.
Ah, c'est Sophie, votre nom? Ah bah c'est chelou ça, comme nom, il manque un bout, non?
C'est toi?
Faut croire que nos parents ont eu une promo sur les prénoms.
Vas-y, c'est bon, arrête, ça me saoule maintenant.
Ferme-la, le frigo.
Va chier, Dimitri.
Mais ça va pas?
Pardon, mais on est obligé de supporter ça?
Mais ça va, c'est qu'un frigo.
Ah ouais. Et imaginons qu'il appelle Jérém avec ma voix pour lui raconter que je vais coucher avec lui. Hein? Quel moyen j'ai de prouver que c'est pas moi?
Actually looks quite annoying to watch. The fridge actually talks then.
That's right. And when you first get one of these smart fridges, you can dial up the voice you prefer. Possible voices include Donald Trump, Scarlett Johansson, in a sweet nod to the movie Her, where she played the voice of a computer, and Victor Hugo. Eventually, Eve composes rap songs that are better than Jerem's and ends up competing in the Eurovision Song Contest. I am not making this up. Fridge and man also bond with outdoor activities like skydiving. Now, if you're thinking that a human lugging a refrigerator with him wherever he goes sounds ludicrous, here's a copy of Tony Hawk's 1998 memoir, Round Ireland with a Fridge, which sold over 500,000 copies, presumably to willing humans and not other appliances. Eve ends up having stirrings of doubt about his own programming. Is a machine capable of personal sacrifices? All About Eve is intended to be a comedy, but I didn't laugh, at least not much. Most of the characters are either dull or obnoxious. I think you've gathered that there. And I think it's a bad sign when the press kit is more entertaining than the movie.
It certainly is. Okay, let's move quickly on to French-Canadian actress Mona Chokri's new film. She's worked with the Canadian Wonder Boy Xavier Dolan, and she's just made her feature-length writing and directing debut with A Brother's Love. It actually got a prize in Cannes, which translates as "The jury found this endearing." Would you agree?
I think I'd rather undergo a lobotomy than sit through this movie a second time, but I'm willing to bet, in fairness, that it may be a generational thing. Time only moves in one direction, and so each day I'm a little bit further away from my personal 20s and 30s. This film revolves around disgruntled and obnoxious 35-year-old protagonist, Sophia, who has just finished her doctoral dissertation, is 48,000 Canadian dollars in debt, and can't get a job. As a job placement officer puts it, well, you're overqualified for everything, but you've never worked, so you don't know how to do anything. She's just been going to school. Sophia moves in with her older brother, Kareem, a young professional, with whom she has always had a ridiculously close, near incestuous relationship. But Kareem meets another woman and embarks on a serious relationship. And this really interferes with Sophia having a reliable pal to whine to and make nasty observations with. And it's awkward that Kareem's new sweetie happens to be the gynecologist Sophia goes to see about having an abortion. Sophia is so self-centered and unwilling to grow up that I found myself wanting to reach into the screen and actually slap her hard.
Okay, well, let's take a look at A Brother's Love.
Et c'est votre deuxième avortement, c'est bien ça?
Oui. Mais le premier, j'avais 19 ans, ça compte pas vraiment.
Peut-être que ce serait judicieux d'envisager une méthode de contraception.
OK.
Vous savez qu'à chaque avortement, vous augmentez le risque d'une éventuelle complication quand vous allez décider de poursuivre une grossesse?
Je veux pas d'enfant, le monde est trop triste. Cela dit, j'aimerais ça avoir de la morphine pendant l'avortement. Et aussi, je voulais savoir si vous pouviez me prescrire un genre d'anxiolytique. Je pense qu'avec tout ça, je vais en avoir besoin.
Je pense que c'est une très mauvaise idée.
Je me mêle de mes affaires.
Now, I am all for women telling original stories on film that get into the marketplace, and the director definitely has an artistic eye, even if I hated watching her heroine endlessly romp with her brother. So I'll look forward to Chokri's next film.
I'm wondering if we should title this film on the internet, Films Lisa Thinks You Should Not Watch.
That could be a category.
However, there is one film that you're a fan of, I think. Oliver Stone made the musical biopic The Doors in 1991, starring Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison. Now, Jim started out studying film in South Carolina, California, where he met other members of the eventual band. What else do we need to know?
Well, now you're talking. You should know that Jim Morrison is buried here in Paris in Père Lachaise Cemetery, where fans, me most definitely included, gather to pay their respects every July 3rd, the anniversary of Jim's death at at the ever-trendy age of 27. French filmmaker Agnès Varda and her husband, director Jacques Demy, were friends of Jim's, and apparently it was Agnès who arranged for Jim to be buried at Père Lachaise. You either have to be French or die in France, die in Paris. One of the main reasons I consider The Doors to be part of my beat is that a movie ticket stub was found in Jim's jeans. So one of the last things he ever did in his life in daylight was to go to a movie theater in Paris's 9th arrondissement to see an American Western. Oliver Stone gives us a fun overview of how the band came to be, the key women in Jim's life, the role of drugs and alcohol, and Jim's ordeal for having allegedly publicly exposed himself during a concert in Miami in 1969. America has this tradition of hounding its artists for perceived slights against propriety. Jim decided to come to Paris while appealing that conviction, and he'll be here forever now, although I should add that 30 years ago, an elderly cemetery guard told me that people were silly to come to the grave because Jim wasn't even buried there, that his family had come to get his remains. Stone's film is entertaining, it's educational, the music is great, and Val Kilmer's central performance is well worth seeing.
Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to leave you now with a glimpse of The Doors, which is out in France this week. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
You're a poet, not a rock star.
Mr. Morrison, gone too far. Show's over.
What are you gonna do about it? Try to set the night on fire. Try to set the night on fire. Go on, kill me. The night on fire. Try to set the night on fire.
I'm Natalie Savaricas, and you'll usually find me in news, reporting on Greece's enduring financial turmoil and protests, but also the refugee emergency, here on France 24.
Natalie Savaricas, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
France and fashion go hand in hand. Expert design and craftsmanship have made this country the king of the global fashion industry.
And Paris is often called the fashion capital. A mix of couture and what's happening on the street is very interesting. That's unique to France. But it's not just the fancy haute couture. Everyday fashion is also a source of fascination abroad.
There's a certain je ne sais quoi to how people dress here. They're so chic, and yet it seems so effortless. How do they do it?
On reste toujours dans un classique.
Chic et intemporel. Join us for this episode of French Connections Plus, where we turn the fabulous world of French fashion inside out.
French Connections Plus, presented by Jeannie Godula and Florence Villeminot on France 24 and France24.com.